this topic keeps popping up on me, and it's like, I just haven't had a chance to freaking, just make a video about it, but it's pretty freaking relevant. But it's like, I've noticed an increase of fungus, which is like basically mushrooms and mold and, yeah, mushrooms and mold, basically. It's like, seems like all the trees have some kind of fungus these days. It's like, I've noticed a lot of, like, mushrooms, like, they're growing everywhere. I don't ever recall them growing everywhere, freaking, like they do now, freaking, and I just took up the hobby of, morel hunting, and it seems like I'm, like, man, dude, they're just everywhere now, but maybe I didn't realize this, that because of the change in the amount of light that we get, like, dude, it is dark about 80% of the time these days. It's like, and because of the chemtrailing and the freaking, you know, they're basically spraying these aluminum, barium, strontium, and it's supposedly, come to find out, you make nanothermite or sparklers, basically, out of these components here, man, and it's like, you wonder why, it's like a tinderbox, the world is, man, and it's like, there's fungus everywhere, and what was weird, it's like, freaking, I ended up watching this freaking video about this dude was talking about, I seen this video where it showed this freaking mold, like find its way through a maze, okay, and well, I took the picture of this on a video. Then, come to find out, somebody makes a video about mold. This dude's like Owook or something like that, some weird name. Dude makes videos about like legends and ancient texts, like. But this one was about mold, and he had this freaking dude on there, and the dude was quite knowledgeable, and he was like right off Jump Street. He's like, mold can cause people to have psychosis, and they can straight up turn schizophrenic, like, and all of a sudden it was like, it dawned on me, and it kind of rang a bell. It's like, I've heard this somewhere before, and it's the Salem witch trials, man. Is that some kind of fungus got in the grain, and then they ate it in the bread, but it was like basically like eating LSD. It's called like ear grot or something to that, something like that. Not sure, but it's like, then it's like, but there's a lot more to this mold thing, and it's like the mold can make you feel like you're having creepy crawlies under your skin, like Morgellons and stuff like that, right? And a lot of women these days seem to be getting these lupus-like symptoms where they get scabs on their head. You know what I'm saying? And this is in Isaiah, that the women will start to get scabs on their head, freaking, because they were prideful. Basically, it says, dude, and they went forth, mincing with stretched forth necks. You know what I'm saying? And they made a tinkling as they went by. You know what I'm saying? Freaking, it's like a girl with a bunch of jewelry on. It's like clang, 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 and they're just like a walking billboard for feminine energy, and you know, all the. It's just a way. It's controlling freaking people, but the hormones, man, pheromones, like another subject, but interesting topics. Like, you know, I've delved a little bit into it, and it's interesting. But back to the moldy. All right, you know, it's just like, seems like bacteria, right? Antibiotics cure bacterial infections, but not viral. But they also kill your good bacteria. So it's like, in a way, with the surplus of good bacteria, it's harder to get a freaking infection, because there's like a bacterial balance in your belly, and if one gets overly eaten too well, it might make you prone to certain conditions. But same thing with the fungus. It's like we got, like nail fungus. Like that's just one fungal disease. But man, what was that other fungal? Oh, yeah, the psychosis and the Salem witch trials. They say the hype and the hype during the time was because these people were infected with this fungal chemical that caused hallucinations and psychosis. And the dude was saying like it'll make someone really dark, like almost change their personality. And it's like that's quite profound because sometimes when people like all of a sudden like they just like all of a sudden it's like, who the f are you? You know what I'm saying? It's like you ever have a moment like that? And it's crazy, but it's like with the fungus on the trees, I've seen fungus like big mushrooms growing everywhere. Freaking and it says that I heard that fungus, when it overruns certain bugs, that it actually makes antennas grow out of their head, like it turns them into almost like a zombie. You know what I'm saying? Uh, it's yeah. Anyway, what I was saying earlier too. There's good fungus and bad fungus, just like bacteria. And then anyway, man, freaking okay. The fungal infection causes the skin to crawl. It will could cause personality changes, and then there was even something where I seen this video where these kids all died in this building, and they just were trying to figure out what caused it, and it was some kind of freaking mold. Like it was like caused quick death, and some of the symptoms that they had, I was like, wait a second, and because certain people keep getting these conditions, and I just keep seeing overlaps in life. Like I wasn't planning on seeing this kind of like whodunit type of a police detective show, and there's a bunch of specialists working on this trying to figure this thing out, and come to find out it was some kind of mold. And okay, so the dude basically said that sage kills mold. So it's like I'd imagine it's kind of weird because they make that seem like you're some kind of witch if you burnt some sage, but come to find out that it's practical, and it kills mildew. And I didn't know mildew was such a freaking deadly enemy to us. But once again, like things start coming back into remembrance. In the Bible, it talks about house leprosy, and one of the jobs of the priest during that time was they were almost like city commission. And they come inside your dwelling, and if there were certain signs of certain kind of molds, that there were some that could be dealt with by a certain remedy, which was like washing and fumigation, basically, which is the same thing like burning sage. But if it was a certain kind, your dwelling had to be destroyed, and you had to move, and you were unclean, and you had to be put in I'm not sure if in the leper camp, but you had to be put outside of the camp for a while until they had to keep checking you for other signs of infection. And it was quite scary and alarming because no one tests for fungus. And I've heard a lot of people complaining about different ailments. And I myself have had some ailments in the past few years. I mean, vitamin D deficiency from no sun, from the chemtrails. From the geoengineering, dude. I mean, look, the geothermal engineering. Them trying to combat climate change, but they caused it by messing with it. And now we're living in it, and the fungus is eating everything. And that's what fungus does. It lives on the dead things, man. And Basically, it decomposes things and breaks things down into smaller soups, and then these things are eaten by another fungus or another plant. But it's like some of these things are got some very strange. Like, look, they could be very like medieval poison and witchcraft. Like, look, sprinkle a little bit of orange fungus cicada bug in someone's stew, and then look the other way, and look, and then they'll go have a meltdown, like in public, and be accused of being a lunatic, and you know, and lose face. You know what I'm saying? That's like, you know what I'm saying? That's like spiking someone's drink with LSD, and they used to really do that for freaking people back in the day. But anyway, also the fungus is also used as a judgment in some point in the Bible. I don't remember exactly which exact spot it's in, but God said He would blast them with mildew, and basically it's a way to like make your life miserable, and like and it's also like a form of a canker worm. It's just like, look, this thing's just deteriorating because this world sucks and it's gonna perish. So even your things that you look, our things, my things, dude, they're just freaking slowly disintegrating or getting broken because they're shoddy. You know what I'm saying? Because everything these days is shoddy and meant to be replaced. Look, you know, look, my homemade garbage crossbow, that fricker's still kicking. You know what I'm saying? Because it was homemade out of a bunch of useless stuff, right? But this stuff that I have to go and work and then sacrifice money to get, and then I just use it and it breaks, you know, or someone steals it. It's just weird, dude. How these things work, and I guess, you know, the more stuff, you know, that you accumulate, and then you get house leprosy, and then all your stuff's just effed, and you got to go just burn it. You know, these things can happen in life, man. It sucks. It's unfortunate because they're concealing things about us, like stuff about health. Like, should be really simple, more simpler, commonsensical, and like look, and watched. Like, look, like hey, man, like the priest back in the day had to watch for fungus, and why does the doctors don't hardly ever check anybody for fungal infection? You know what I'm saying? And it looks to me like I think everyone's infected with fungus right now, because I think the whole planet's infected with fungus because it's a byproduct of the darkening, the global darkening, and it's also a judgment from God. You'll be blasted with mildew. I mean, I seen, it had to have been 2-3 years ago, but look, it was weird. It was like mildew just went like, and it crawled over everything in the whole neighborhood. And it wasn't just at my spot, it was everywhere. And then frickin' there was like flies came out. It was almost like a little tiny taste of the Exodus. You know what I'm saying? Just a little tiny taste of it for me personally. And I seen these little fucking quinky dinks go on, these little like stirrings of things, and these little types and shadows kicking off, these little patterns, right? And some of this stuff reoccurs. And what he was saying too, he says that the stuff grows. He says the worst kind of molds actually do grow off of things that are dying, like dead animals or dead people, right? And it says that in the chemtrails, one of the they find actually like human matter, like look like they're just like they're getting rid of bodies and like chopping them up into a little soup and just spraying them on a fucking plane. Why would you do that? I mean, unless you are really freaking psycho, dude, and you are like Jafar from Aladdin. You are like a freaking sorcerer, evil, medieval alchemical magician. You know what I'm saying, basically. But it makes sense, because innocent blood defileth the land, right? Well, if it was freaking from aborted freaking babies, right? These is innocent blood, and it defiled the land. And what if they just are spraying it out there just to be F you to God and to the scripture? And it would make the force thereof of all this area not right, and blood would go forth and touch blood, and then all these plagues and weird like blastings with mildew will come upon people unaware,